Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. New year, all new videos. So this is going to be the first one of the year. I have done videos on waxing before, but today we're going to go over a couple of things that are different than the other videos that I've put out. What is the difference between a wax and a glaze? Can you use wax as a sealer? Why do you use wax? There's all kinds of questions I get daily on waxing. I do still wax today, although there are different options, and there are different products on the market. Are all waxes created equal? So let's just jump in. I'm going to show you some of the wax products that I use. I'm going to talk about a little bit about each one, what the differences are between them. Overall, the waxes are the same. When I talk about difference between the wax brands, it's just sometimes how they come packaged, how expensive they are, how they smell, what the texture of the wax is. They can be a little different. So all in all, the general purpose of waxing and brands of wax are going to give you that same result. It's just you learn after a while which ones you like, which ones you don't, which ones work better for you, what consistency you like better, all those good things. So let's just go ahead and dive right in and get started. So I'm going to address just a couple of things real quick before I show you my selections of waxes that I use. So big question I get: what is the difference between waxing and glazing? Well, it's a huge difference. Glaze is a very liquidy product. You can tint glaze, so you can buy a clear glaze and tint glaze any color you want with your paint. You can buy pre-tinted glazes. Glazes go on after your paint, like wax. They are not a sealer. Glazes need to be sealed after. So you need to keep that in mind. That glaze is not a final seal type product, whereas wax is. They both give you that look decoratively. If you're looking to create different techniques, you can do both with wax versus glaze. Some people have challenges working with glaze. Sets up very quickly. You've got to work pretty fast with a glaze. So the way that it kind of works is, and we're not going to delve too much into detail about the glazing because I think I'll actually do a different video on that. But glazing, the steps you would do would be paint, top coat, glaze, top coat. The reason you want to glaze on top of a top coat is it's way easier. You have a little more workability time with your glaze. Glazing also pretty much is just used to create techniques, okay? So whereas waxing, you can use a clear wax just on its own. You wouldn't typically use a clear glaze for any purpose. It doesn't serve as a top coating purpose. So the glazing is more of a technique or a look that you're trying to achieve. You wouldn't just use a clear glaze for any real purpose. So there's that. Different people have different opinions about what's easier. Waxing can be what you would consider to be labor intensive. It does require a little work. Once you get the hang of waxing though, it's pretty easy, just like anything. There are different ways to apply wax. I'm going to show you here. You can use a wax brush. This is an actual wax brush. This is an Annie Sloan. I've had this for probably 5 years, and I do still use it. I really like it. But you don't have to make that huge investment. You can also put waxes on with cloths and wipe them off the same way. So it's a preference. It's a learning curve. It's kind of like what you want to try and see what works for you. What works for me may not be your choice. So yeah, there's different ways to apply it. I don't find that either way is easier. It's just, again, a preference. I do tend to think that you get a little more wax on the piece with a brush than you do get it on with the rag. So there's that. Let's see, what else? Is wax a good sealer? You know, you can ask me and I'm going to give you an answer, and you can ask 10 different people and you're going to get 10 different answers. So here's what I'm going to say to that. I think so, yes. I tell this story all the time. I painted my cabinets in my kitchen 5 years ago. I have a ton of cabinets. I used Annie Sloan chalk paint. It's before I discovered any other type of paints. It was my first one that I used. Therefore, it needed to be sealed. I used the wax from Annie Sloan's brand line. And 5 years later, 3 hungry teenagers, always in the kitchen, they're fine. Do you need to re-wax? Yeah, they do recommend that you re-wax after a certain period of time. What's that period of time? It's kind of a preference. If you see that your cabinetry or your piece looks to be dried out and you want to give it a little refresh, it could be a couple years before you do that. It depends on the high use of the piece. So, it is definitely something that you would want to do. After 5 years, I have lightly re-waxed my cabinets one time. That was just a preference because when I saw light shining in, I saw, they really need a little conditioning. I put on some more wax. Not a big deal. So I do think that wax is a great sealer. Once it is cured after the 30 days, it's equally as hard as any polyacrylic that you put on a piece. So applied the right way, you're not going to have any sealant issues. I do use it on pieces because I have clients that like a very matte, soft, velvety finish, and they like that wax look. So I have used that. Here's the main problem that most people encounter with wax. They say it feels waxy. Well, yeah, you're using a wax, but here's the key. It's the application that causes that, not the actual product. So what I mean by that is if you apply too heavy, then you're going to get that waxy feeling. You're going to have a hard time getting it off, a hard time buffing it out. So you have to kind of figure it out and play with it a little bit. I always encourage practicing on a piece. I've got a board back here that we're going to use today just so I can show you. The other thing to keep in mind is the wax will deepen the color of your paint. So you will show a little bit darker than when it's just painted. So keep that in mind. If you don't want to alter that color at all, then I definitely wouldn't wax. Even the clear wax, it will definitely deepen that piece. I personally love how it always makes the pieces look, so not a problem for me. So let's go ahead and go over a couple of waxes. Obviously, I talked about Annie Sloan. This is one of her waxes. I have I think she makes three colors. I believe there's clear, there's brown, and there's black. And I'm sorry, 4. And she does make a white wax. My personal preference, I don't care for the white wax. It's just not a look. I've tried it on pieces. Just not something I have found yet. I have it, but I don't use it very often. I mostly use my clear wax and my black and then my brown. So when waxing and you want to create a look, a technique, a different color change, aged look, always apply your clear wax first, and then you go in with your darker color wax. What happens if you go with just the dark color wax, it's going to seep right into the pores and make it very difficult for you to work that around and thin it out or blend it in. When you go on top of your clear wax, way easier. So keep that in mind when you're doing something for a decorative look with the colored waxes. Always clear wax first. Allow that to dry, go back then and apply your darker colored waxes after that. So there's the Annie one. This, I believe the price point on this is $28.99. This is a huge can. They do make a smaller one as well. So for those of you that may not do it all the time, you can get away with this. A little bit of wax goes a long way. Going back to my first statement, you don't want to apply too much because then you just create a mess for yourself. So this little guy will last for quite a long time. I would recommend if you're just starting, get these smaller ones and go from there. These retail for about $15.99. So there's that. Now, one of the ones that I've just tried not too long ago when I tried their paint line was the Joile finishing wax. So this one, is it different than Annie? Yes, it has a different smell. First of all, I will tell you that Annie Sloan wax has a little bit of a fragrance to it. Some people don't care for it. It does go away once you put it on the furniture, so it won't be there. But when you pop open that can, it does have a little bit of a smell to it that some people just don't care for. This one actually has zero smell. It is a little bit softer. Now, Of course, your waxes are going to change depending on where you store them. If you store them inside room temperature, which I would recommend, that's your best bet. You get too hot, they're gonna heat up. You get too cold, they're gonna get really hard. You can definitely warm up a wax so that if you did leave it out and it got too cold, you can definitely warm it up by bringing it inside and working the wax as well with your brush in the can. So, you know, it's not a permanent thing. If, oh my God, I left it, it got too hot, it melted, bring it inside. And if it's, you know, cooler, same for the warmer weather or the cooler weather outside, bring it inside, let it warm up. They're not too finicky. Like I said, I've had these for a while. They last really, really long. Just pay attention to your climate so that, you know, you don't want to freeze it. But this one, I feel like this one is different in the way that it is a little bit of a softer. It gives the exact same finish. All the waxes give the exact same buttery, matte, velvety, smooth, however you want to say it, finish. So the end result is going to be the same. It's going to be a preference as far as if it has an odor to it, or like I said, the consistency or texture. I would say that the texture and consistency on the Annie versus the Jolie is about the same. So they're not real thin, but they're not super thick either. You know, the price point, I'm not sure on this one. I'll put it up on screen for you guys. I got this as part of a package from Jolie last year, so I don't remember what this cost was. I'll go ahead and put that up on the screen for you. Also, they do come in different sizes, just so you know. So there's that. Now, this one I just tried not too long ago. I got in a package with a bunch of Joile products, and I really like it. Now, the consistency for the Joile wax is different than these two. I'd say it's a lot thinner. It's in a tin. It is very compacted, just like the other waxes, but it's just got a thinner feel to it. So it doesn't feel as heavy, I guess, or as waxy, as thick. I really like this. It does not have an odor to it, and it works, like I said, equally as well. I find that they all pretty much apply the same way. I've never really had any application differences between the waxes. So again, personal preference on maybe you're loyal to a certain brand or it's a price point thing. And I'm gonna put the screen up on screen for you as well on this price point because again, came in a package. I don't know the price point. I'll put it up here for you guys so you know. And then the other wax that I like to use, which is different than those three, is the Fusion Wax. Now, I get the little guys in this. As a matter of fact, I don't even know that they have a larger one in Fusion. They have several colors. Fusion makes a black, an aging, a white, the clear, and I think maybe one or two more, but they are a lot thinner consistency and texture. I would almost compare the Fusion to a moisturizer. I know that sounds really funny, but when I open this, that's what I think of when I open it. It's a little thinner consistency. You can tell right off the bat in comparison to these other ones. Again, it produces the same result. However, it is a little thinner consistency when it goes on. I really enjoy working with the Fusion waxes and I use them often. Price point on the Fusion waxes for these guys, of course I have no prices on anything, you guys, so again, I'll flash it up on the screen for you. They're all pretty competitive, just so you know, but these are really good wax. So let's go ahead, take our board. I'm gonna show you how you apply the clear wax, how you remove the clear wax, and then I will also show you how you go ahead and age something. So that way you get kind of an idea of how it works, how long to wait in between, how you can buff it, all the good things. So let's go ahead and tip the camera down. Okay guys, so for right now, for the purposes of working on this board and showing you how to apply the wax, I'm gonna go ahead and use the Fusion Wax. No particular reason why, just thought I would try the Fusion Wax today. So what I typically do is dip my brush right into my wax, and then I personally take some of it off because you can always apply more, but it's more difficult to take it off once you get it on. So I've got wax on my brush. Today's board has been painted in the Wise Owl Chalk Synthesis paint, just in case you're wondering, and the color is Military Bronze. It's a really cool color. So all I do, and I'm going to work with just a small section right here because I want to do some different things on this board, but what you want to do is, first of all, if you've got a large piece, I recommend you working in sections. Never try to wax the whole entire piece at once. It's too much. Every brand recommends the same type of application. Work in small sections and then move on. So for today's purposes, obviously we're working in a small section because we only have a small board. But we're going to go ahead, and the way I usually do it, you can do it different ways, different techniques, different people. You can go with the grain, you can go in circles. There's no real rhyme or reason or specific way that is right or wrong for applying wax. So you can do it the way you feel comfortable doing it. I tend to like to do kind of a circular motion only because I feel like it really gets it into every nook and cranny of the paint, and if I have any embellishments, it's really going to get it in there as well. That's one of the reasons that I like a wax brush. I feel like it's a little easier for application purposes to really get it on the piece, get it in where I want it. Okay. I've got my wax on that small section. You can obviously tell the difference. Like I told you, it's going to definitely deepen that color, which you see right off the bat. So once you apply your wax in your small section, all I do at that point, and you do this right after you apply the wax, I go ahead and get a clean cloth, rag, microfiber, whatever you want to work with, and then you're going to go ahead and wipe it off. Now, when I wipe it off or wipe it back, what I like to do is wipe it in the direction of the grain. Although I applied it in a circular motion, when I'm wiping it off, I want a nice clean look. So I'm going to go ahead and go with whatever direction I've got going on my piece. In this case, we're going to go side to side. All I'm doing, and I'm only going to go over it in one pass each. Same direction, wiped it off. Just so you guys can see, I'll go ahead and lift that board. Look at the difference that it makes in that board, right? Totally different. Now, when this dries down, it will dry down, like I said, to a more of a matte finish. You can buff this as well. I would also recommend 2 coats at least. Now, here's the big question. How long do I wait in between coats of wax? Okay, so let's pretend that this is a whole dresser. We're going to go ahead and wax in our sections, the whole entire thing. All right, we've wiped it back. We're letting it sit for 24 hours before we go ahead and apply a second coat of wax. You really, really need to give that time to set in, to set up before you start in with another coat, because all you're going to do if you go in too soon is pull up wax in sections on the piece and you'll get a very inconsistent finish. So you want to apply, wipe back, wait 24 hours, go ahead and come back in, apply your second coat, wipe it back, and then what I tend to do is let it sit again for anywhere between 12 and 24 hours, and then I can buff it. Now, buffing it is not a requirement. That is if you want some extra sheen out of it. If you want that matte finish, leave it alone. You're good to go. Now, we're going to go ahead and let this dry. I'm going to come back with you guys after it's been dried, and we will apply, instead of a second coat, because we're just working with a practice board today, we're going to go ahead and go into using the colored wax, just so you guys can see the difference. I also, as a matter of fact, right now, I'm going to apply a colored wax into this board without applying my clear coat. And the reason I want to do that is because it is 100% recommended that you don't do that. So I just kind of want to show you guys what happens, that the workability of the colored waxes when you don't have a layer of the clear wax underneath it, it doesn't really move it around as well. It doesn't really give it a nice uniform look, and you'll find that it's more difficult to work with. I'm also going to show you applying it with the cloth instead of a brush. If you don't have one, you just dip right in. I don't know if you can see this or not, but you can see how incredibly soft and thin the consistency of the Fusion Wax is. I will pop open the Annie can just so you can see the difference, but this is definitely a more pliable wax. So I'm just going to go ahead right here on the corner and apply my dark wax and then wipe it off. So here's the thing, and this is perfect. See, I've got some little blue balls right here of the dark wax. Well, if I try to get these out, I can't. I'm going to try to show you guys really up close so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. But it stains it, basically. And I can't work it anymore because it's got that dark color set right into the paint. Have a clear wax underneath, you've got more workability with that. You'd be able to not see that as much. So what happens when you get too much dark wax on a piece? You don't like it. I've done a video on this before, but I'm going to tell you guys really quick. All you do is go in with your clear wax and it acts as an eraser. So it's pretty cool. You can go in and take off that dark color. Voila. It is now just the same color as the other clear wax. So it's a little hard on this piece maybe to see on camera because it is dark. So that brown probably didn't show up very well. Had this been a light colored piece, then you would have definitely seen it. But you can use, when you use an aging or a black or a dark colored wax, you can definitely go in and use your clear wax as an eraser. Works awesome. Okay, so we are all done. I gave you just a little tiny crash course in how to apply wax. If you guys have any real further questions or detailed questions, definitely put them down below. This is something I teach in my one-on-one lessons because waxing in itself, just like painting, is a whole different ball game. It's a different technique. It's definitely something you can have fun with, creating different looks and techniques, or you can just simply use it as a sealer. So it's definitely a very cool product to work with. I do want to show you our board, you know, and I realized after the fact that even though this color that I used on this practice board is beautiful, it was a little hard to see the darker waxes. Obviously you can see here, this is the clear wax side. Here, I did use the darker wax here. It didn't really pop or show on this dark color. That's definitely something I'm going to showcase at the end of the video here for you guys, showing you I have a piece right now that I just completed, and it's a really lighter gray color, and the black wax pops incredibly on the embellishment. So I will showcase a photo at the end of the video there for you guys so you can really see that. But this is what you get. I mean, like I said, it deepens the color. It gives just a slight sheen to it if you want. Buffing it out creates a little bit more of a sheen. If you don't want to buff it, you don't have to. It's an extra step you can take just depending on the look that you want. So pretty much, I would say, in my opinion, are all waxes created equal? Kind of. I mean, you're gonna get the same result from a wax product, even if you use a different brand. The end result's going to be the same. The difference is going to be what works for you, what you like, the feel, the smell, the texture, the price point. So all of the ones that I talked about today are ones that I use. There are many more out there on the market. And if you guys have any other questions about these particular products or anything else regarding wax, definitely put it down below. As I said earlier, I will always answer all your questions and appreciate any positive comments that you have. I hope that this video was helpful for you guys today and maybe shed some light on waxing. You know, waxing tends to get sometimes a bad rap, and I don't know where that came from. I belong to a lot of paint forums and a lot of people are like, wax, no. But you know what? It is a great product. It's just, you have to learn how to work with it. And to be honest with you, that's any product. Once you learn how to work with something and you figure out the ins and outs of it, you know, it can be so pleasurable to work with and so easy to work with, and like I said, it really creates a beautiful look. So Thank you guys so much for watching today. I do appreciate you being subscribers. Keep subscribing so you can get all of my videos, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Happy New Year!